after many, many years of lies being told about me and my family, there comes a point where, you know, again, going back to the relationship between certain members of the family and the tabloid press.
For more than 5 years now, the story of Prince Harry and the royal family has played out less like a single dramatic rupture and more like a slow negotiation, one conducted partly in public, partly through lawyers, and partly, it seems, through silence. There has been no single scandal that explains where things stand today. Instead, there's a tangle of real, documented disputes over money, over security, and over trust. This is an attempt to lay out what's actually known, what's been said on the record, and what remains genuine speculation. The starting point isn't in dispute. In January 2020, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announced they were stepping back as senior working members of the royal family, intending to become financially independent and split their time between the UK and North America. Within weeks, that plan had hardened into something closer to a full departure. The couple relocated to California, and a framework known informally as Megxit was agreed with Buckingham Palace, under which the couple gave up their official royal duties, patronages, and public funding in exchange for greater independence and privacy. That single decision set off nearly everything that followed. It changed how Harry was protected when he visited the UK. It changed how he and Meghan were expected to earn a living. And it reshaped, in ways that are still playing out, his relationships with his father and his brother. Of all the issues between Harry and the institution he left, the fight over his UK security detail is the one with the most paper trail court judgments, tribunal findings, and years of litigation, rather than anonymous sourcing. Here's the sequence of events as the record shows it. When Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal duties, a body called the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures, known by the acronym REVEC, decided in February 2020 that Harry would no longer receive the same level of taxpayer-funded, on-demand police protection he'd had as a working royal. Instead, his security would be assessed case by case whenever he visited Britain, based on the specific risk at the time. Harry has argued for years that this arrangement is inadequate and unsafe for him and his family. He and his lawyers took the UK government to court over it, arguing the decision was procedurally unfair. That case went through several rounds. In February 2024, a High Court judge ruled against Harry, finding that REVEC's decision to give him a bespoke level of protection, assessed case by case, was neither irrational nor procedurally unfair. Harry was initially refused permission to appeal, but the Court of Appeal agreed in mid-2024 to hear his case. In April 2025, that appeal was heard over 2 days at London's Court of Appeal. Harry attended in person, a rare public court appearance for him. In May 2025, the Court of Appeal ruled unanimously against him again. In a 21-page judgment, Justice Geoffrey Voss wrote that Harry plainly felt badly treated, and that his legal team had made compelling arguments but concluded that his grievance did not amount to a legal basis to overturn REVEC's decision. Harry also pursued a separate, related legal avenue, asking whether he could privately pay for a Metropolitan Police protective detail while in the UK, rather than have taxpayers fund it. That request was denied as well. The government's position, put to the court, was that police officers should not be turned into what one lawyer called private bodyguards for people who can afford them. The personal fallout from these rulings has been made public by Harry himself, not by anonymous insiders. In a BBC interview in May 2025, after losing the Court of Appeal case, Harry said plainly that his father was not speaking to him because of the security dispute, and that he did not know how much longer his father had. He also said he would welcome reconciliation with his family, and saw no point in continuing to fight, adding that if his relatives didn't want that reconciliation, that was their decision to make. That's about as close as this story gets to an on-the-record acknowledgement of estrangement from a primary source. It's worth noting what it does not say. Harry did not accuse his father, in that interview or elsewhere on record, of deliberately withholding contact to punish him, and there's no verified account of Charles's own explanation for the silence, only Harry's account of how it felt from his side. Despite the legal defeats and the reported freeze in communication, father and son have in fact met several times since 2020, and those meetings are generally confirmed by multiple outlets, sometimes by Buckingham Palace itself, even if the content of the conversations is not. Harry flew from California to London after Buckingham Palace announced Charles's cancer diagnosis. The two met privately at Clarence House for a reported 30 to 45 minutes, Harry's first meeting with his father in over a year. Harry returned to the US the next day. Harry came back to the UK, but reportedly did not secure a meeting with his father that time. His spokesperson attributed it to the King's schedule and other commitments. August 2024, Harry and his brother William were both present at the funeral of their uncle, Lord Robert Fellows, one of the few times the brothers have been in the same place since the rift became public. Multiple reports describe the two keeping their distance from each other. Aides for both Charles and Harry were seen meeting at a private London club, widely read by royal correspondents as a preparatory step toward a possible reunion, though neither side confirmed what was discussed. Harry and Charles met again, this time for tea at Clarence House, their first meeting in about 19 months. The meeting reportedly lasted under an hour. Notably, Prince William's office was said to be uninvolved in arranging it, and some royal commentators have suggested as an interpretation, not a confirmed fact, that William was unhappy about his father softening his position toward Harry. Harry has also visited his father at Highgrove House, Charles's Gloucestershire residence, with some reporting suggesting Harry's children, Archie and Lilibet, were present and met their grandfather, though coverage of this event varies by outlet in its level of detail and sourcing, and security arrangements around the children's travel to the UK remain a recurring practical obstacle. None of this amounts to full reconciliation, but it does establish, from multiple independently reported sightings and at least one palace-adjacent confirmation, that direct contact between Harry and Charles has resumed, however cautiously, after the low point that followed the 2025 court defeat. The relationship with Prince William is a different, and by most accounts colder, story. There is no confirmed report of a private meeting between the two brothers since the 2020 split, aside from shared public appearances like the Fellows' funeral, where observers noted the brothers did not appear to interact warmly. Multiple royal correspondents have described William as significantly more resistant to reconciliation than his father, but this is sourced to unnamed insiders and commentary rather than any on-the-record statement from William himself, so it should be treated as widely reported perception rather than settled fact. What's genuinely well documented: Harry and Meghan gave up official royal funding and public duties in 2020 and have since built an independent income through a mix of ventures, a multi-year Netflix content deal, a Spotify podcast arrangement that was later discontinued, Meghan's lifestyle brand and product lines, Harry's memoir Spare, and paid speaking engagements. They've also spent heavily and continuously on private security for themselves and their children, an unavoidable cost once government protection was withdrawn, and one that is widely reported to be substantial, though the couple has not published exact figures. What is not documented, and should be treated as speculative tabloid content rather than established fact: specific claims of a $100 million debt crisis, reports of secretive palace memos discussing the Sussexes' finances, or dramatic accounts of Meghan personally overhauling their business strategy in response to a cash shortfall. These kinds of figures circulate regularly in tabloid and YouTube commentary, generally attributed to unnamed insiders, and they are not traceable to any financial disclosure, court filing, or on-the-record statement from Harry, Meghan, or their representatives. Coverage of the couple's finances published by mainstream outlets tends to describe their business ventures and reported earnings in general terms, without confirming a specific debt figure. There is one frequently cited claim worth naming directly, because it comes from an identifiable source rather than an anonymous one. Royal author Robert Jobson's book, The Windsor Legacy, reportedly claims that Charles once told Harry, in essence, that he was not a bank, in response to a request for continued financial support after the couple stepped back from royal duties. A source close to Harry has publicly disputed this account, calling it inaccurate. Because the underlying claim rests on one author's reporting, disputed by the other side, it should be treated as a contested second-hand account, not a confirmed exchange. Multiple UK outlets have reported, via unnamed royal sources, that William is frustrated by what he sees as Harry continuing to draw on his royal identity commercially through the memoir, documentaries, and interviews, while also publicly criticizing the institution. This is consistently described as William's private view by royal correspondents. But there is no on-the-record quote from William himself confirming this framing, so it remains attributed commentary rather than a direct statement. Similarly, reports suggesting William intends to take a harder line on financial or title matters once he becomes king are, by their nature, speculation about a future state of affairs that hasn't happened yet, sourced to palace watchers rather than any announced policy. One fact that's straightforward to verify: Harry and Meghan remain, as of now, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Removing royal titles isn't a simple administrative act. It typically requires formal legal and constitutional process, historically done through letters patent or an act of parliament, and there is no public indication that any such process against Harry and Meghan is underway. Why Charles hasn't moved to strip the titles is genuinely unclear, and most explanations offered by commentators that he fears public backlash, that he's preserving a path to reconciliation, that removing them would be legally cumbersome are reasonable, but unconfirmed interpretations rather than a stated royal policy. Away from the family disputes, Harry's litigation against UK tabloids has produced some of the clearest, most verifiable outcomes in this entire saga. In 2023, Harry won a high court case against Mirror Group newspapers, with the judge finding that phone hacking had been widespread and habitual at the publisher. In January 2025, News Group newspapers publisher of Rupert Murdoch's UK tabloids issued a public apology to Harry and agreed to pay substantial damages, settling a long-running privacy case. A separate case against the publisher of the Daily Mail remains ongoing. In 2026, Harry lost a high court privacy claim against Associated Newspapers on a different matter, a defeat that came in the same week he received a warm public reception at an Invictus Games event in Birmingham, a juxtaposition several outlets noted without further comment. These outcomes are grounded in actual court judgments, not insider gossip, which makes them the most solid factual anchor in the whole narrative. It's worth being honest at the end of this about the limits of public reporting. Nobody outside the family has verified what Charles and Harry actually said to each other at Clarence House or Highgrove. Nobody has published Harry and Meghan's real balance sheet. Nobody has confirmed William's private feelings in his own words. The claims about secret wills, hidden clauses in Queen Elizabeth's estate, or blackmail plots that circulate on some corners of YouTube and tabloid media are not supported by any court record, palace statement, or named source. They're dramatized fiction dressed up as insider reporting, and treating them as fact does a disservice to a story that's genuinely compelling on the strength of what's actually known. What is known is enough to tell a real story. A son who left an institution built on duty and continuity. A father managing his own health crisis while trying to balance reconciliation against precedent. A brother whose anger appears to run deeper and cooler than his father's. And a legal system that has, again and again, sided with the government over Harry's specific grievance about safety, while leaving the family relationships to be repaired, if at all, one quiet meeting at a time.